My name is Denise, and I discovered my house was for sale when a young couple walked into my bedroom while I was still recovering from hip surgery. They froze when they saw me sitting beside my walker. The realtor looked just as shocked and explained that she had been told the owner had permanently moved into assisted living. I was the owner. I had lived there for 27 years, and my son Kyle was standing in the hallway holding the power of attorney I had trusted him with. A few months earlier, Kyle had seemed like the most dependable person in my life. My husband had passed away years before, my daughter Maya lived across the country, and Kyle was only 15 minutes away. When I needed surgery, he drove me to appointments, collected my prescriptions, and offered to handle the insurance paperwork. The hospital suggested a limited power of attorney so he could pay medical bills while I was in rehabilitation. Kyle prepared the document online and told me the sections about banking and property were standard language. I signed it without asking an independent lawyer to review it. 3 weeks after surgery, I returned home using a walker. Kyle stayed in the guest room and kept telling me not to worry about paperwork. Then one afternoon, I woke from a nap and heard strangers discussing the size of my closets. The realtor showed me a listing agreement Kyle had signed as my legal agent. The description said I was mentally confused, had moved into assisted living, and wanted a quick sale. There was already an offer waiting. When I demanded an explanation, Kyle said the house was too large for me and that selling it would pay for a safer condo. I asked where that condo was. He said he had not chosen one yet. I asked why he had never discussed the sale with me. He replied that I had been medicated and emotional after surgery. In that moment, I realized he had not misunderstood my wishes. He had decided my consent was inconvenient. I called Maya and she flew in the next morning. Together, we met an elder law attorney who reviewed the power of attorney. It was broader than I had understood, but it did not allow Kyle to lie about my mental condition, ignore my instructions, or use my property for his own benefit. Because I was fully competent, I revoked it immediately. Copies went to the bank, the realtor, the title company, and the county recorder. The closing was stopped before my house could be transferred. Then the title company revealed something worse. Kyle had instructed them to send part of the sale proceeds into an investment account he personally controlled, supposedly so he could buy my new condo. No condo contract existed. My bank records also showed that he had already moved $42,000 from my home equity line into a business account. He was not planning my future. He was using my house to rescue his own. Kyle owned a sports betting bar that was drowning in debt. He owed private lenders money and had told his wife the business was about to sell for a profit. In reality, he needed cash within weeks. His plan was to sell my home, move me into a rental, and repay everything later if the bar recovered. When confronted, he called the arrangement temporary. But temporary is a dangerous word when someone is gambling with another person's security. Several relatives begged me not to report him. They said Kyle had children, that losing his business would humiliate him, and that I could afford to help. They spoke about my home as though it were unused family money instead of the place where I lived every day. I asked each of them whether they were willing to borrow against their own houses for Kyle. Every conversation ended quickly after that. The realtor cooperated and provided emails in which Kyle described me as confused and incapable of making decisions. That lie hurt almost as much as the missing money. He had turned ordinary post-surgery weakness into proof that my voice no longer mattered. I completed a formal medical capacity evaluation, and the doctor confirmed that I understood my finances and could make my own decisions. The report became part of the legal record. Kyle eventually accepted responsibility for financial exploitation and attempted fraud. Because much of the money was recovered and he had no previous record, he received probation, restitution requirements, financial counseling, and a permanent ban on acting as anyone's fiduciary. He sold his share of the bar to repay what remained. I did not ask for revenge. I asked for the truth to be documented so he could never quietly rewrite what he had done as a family misunderstanding. After everything settled, I considered selling the house voluntarily. The stairs were difficult, and the garden had become harder to manage. But I realized that before I could make any choice freely, the decision had to belong to me again. I installed a stair lift, converted the downstairs study into a bedroom, hired help for the garden, and updated my estate plan with an independent professional. No single child would ever again have complete control over my property or finances. Kyle and I did not speak for 6 months. When we finally met with a therapist present, he admitted that he had started viewing my house as the family's emergency fund and my trust as a tool he could use. I told him I still loved him, but he would never again have access to my accounts, documents, or house keys. He said that meant I expected him to fail forever. I told him trust is not restored simply because the person who broke it dislikes the consequences. The young couple who accidentally toured my bedroom later sent me an apology. I wrote back and told them they had done nothing wrong. Their unexpected visit was the reason the sale was exposed before it closed. The following spring, I planted a white rose beside the place where Kyle had planned to put the sale sign. It blooms every year as a reminder that my home was never just property. My age was never permission. And help from family should never cost a person the right to make decisions about their own life. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Unheard drama stories for more emotional family betrayals, hidden secrets, and powerful stories about people who finally stood up for themselves.